Cost classification. Cost objectives. It is any activity for which a separate measurement of cost is undertaken. Example: cost of a product. Cost units. It is a unit of product or service in relation to which costs are ascertained. Examples: a room in a hotel. Cost centers. It is a production or service location, function, activity, or item of equipment for which costs can be ascertained. Examples: a department. Cost cards. It is used to show the breakdown of the costs of producing output based on the classification of each cost. A cost card can be produced for one unit or a planned level of production. Cost classification. Costs can be classified based on the following: element, nature, function, behavior. Classification by element. By element, cost can be classified as material cost, labor cost, and expense. Classification by nature. Based on whether the cost is directly traceable to a cost unit. Direct costs. Direct costs are costs which can be directly identified with a specific cost unit or cost center. There are three main types of direct cost: direct material, direct labor, and direct expenses. Indirect costs. Indirect costs are costs which cannot be directly identified. For example, supervisor's salary. The total of indirect costs is known as overheads. Classification by function. This is based on whether the cost is related to manufacturing or not. Production costs. Production costs are costs that relate to the manufacture of a product or provision of a service. These costs are found in the cost of sales section of the statement of profit or loss and are included in the valuation of inventory. For example, direct materials, direct labor, direct expenses, and production overheads. Non-production costs. These costs are not directly associated with production and are not included in the valuation of inventory. For example, administrative and selling expenses. Classification by behavior. Based on the way that they behave in relation to changes in levels of activity. Based on behavior, costs can be classified as variable cost, fixed cost, stepped fixed cost, semi-variable cost. Variable costs. These costs vary in direct proportion with the level of activity. As activity levels increase, then total variable costs will also increase. For example, material costs. These diagrams portray the behavior of a variable cost. Note that as total costs increase with activity levels, the cost per unit of variable costs remains constant. Fixed costs. Within certain activity levels, these costs remain constant. Fixed costs can be shown graphically as follows. Total fixed cost remains constant. Cost per unit falls as the level of activity increases. Example: rent, supervisor's salary. Stepped fixed costs. These are fixed costs that remain fixed within certain levels of activity. Once the upper limit of an activity level is reached, then a new higher level of fixed cost is established. Stepped fixed costs can be shown graphically as follows. For example, up to 1,000 units, storage cost is $5,000. But when the production moves higher than this limit, say 1,110, the fixed cost might set up to $7,000. Semi-variable costs. These contain both fixed and variable elements. Semi-variable costs can be shown graphically as follows. For example, electricity bills. There will be a flat rate which remains fixed. Over and above this, there will be a variable rate determined based on usage. Identifying cost behavior. Fixed costs are constant in total. Variable costs are constant per unit. Semi-variable costs are neither constant in total nor constant per unit. Stepped fixed costs will be constant in total within a certain range. High or low method. It is used to separate fixed and variable element of a semi-variable cost. Total costs is equal to total fixed costs plus variable cost per unit multiplied by activity level. Let us look into the calculation. Step 1. Select the highest and lowest activity levels and their costs. Step 2. Calculate the variable cost VC per unit. VC per unit is equal to cost at high level of activity minus cost at low level of activity divided by high level of activity minus low level of activity. Step 3. Calculate the fixed cost by substitution using either the high or low activity level. Fixed cost is equal to total cost at activity level minus variable cost multiplied by activity level. Step 4. Use the total fixed cost and the variable cost per unit values from Step 2 and 3 to calculate the estimated cost at different activity levels. Let us look into an illustration to understand the calculation better. For output in units 200, total cost in dollars 7,000. For output in units 300, total cost in dollars 8,000. For output in units 400, total cost in dollars 9,000. Required: A. Calculate the variable cost per unit. B. Calculate the total fixed cost. C. Estimate the total cost if output is 350 units. D. Estimate the total cost if output is 600 units. Solution: A. variable cost per unit is equal to $9,000 minus $7,000 divided by 400 minus 200 is equal to $2,000 divided by 200 is equal to $10 per unit. B. Total fixed cost by substituting at high activity level. Total cost is equal to $9,000. Total variable cost is equal to 400 multiplied by $10 is equal to $4,000. Therefore, fixed cost is equal to $5,000. C. If output is 350 units, variable cost is equal to 350 multiplied by $10 is equal to $3,500. Fixed cost is equal to $5,000. Total cost is equal to $8,500. D. If output is 600 units, variable cost is equal to 600 multiplied by $10 is equal to $6,000. Fixed cost is equal to $5,000. Total cost is equal to $11,000. High-low method with stepped fixed costs. Sometimes fixed costs are only fixed within certain levels of activity. Let us look into how the high-low method can be used in such a scenario. Choose the two activity levels where the fixed costs remain unchanged and calculate the variable cost per unit and the total fixed cost using the high or low technique. Adjustments may need to be made to the fixed costs when calculating the total cost for a new activity level. An example would help you understand better. An organization has the following total costs at 3 activity levels. For activity level in units, 4,000. Total cost, $30,800. For activity level in units, 6,000. Total cost, $50,000. For activity level in units, 7,500. Total cost, $54,800. Variable cost per unit is constant within this activity range, and there is a step up of 10% in the total fixed costs when the activity level exceeds 5,500 units. What is the total cost at an activity level of 5,000 units? Solution. Calculate the variable cost per unit by comparing two output levels, where fixed costs will be the same. Variable cost per unit is equal to 54,800 minus 50,000 divided by 7,500 minus 6,000 is equal to $3.20. Total fixed cost above 5,500 units is equal to 54,800 minus 7,500 multiplied by 3.20 is equal to $30,800. Total fixed cost below 5,500 units is equal to 30,800 divided by 1,010 multiplied by 100 is equal to $28,000. Total cost for 5,000 units is equal to 5,000 multiplied by 3.20 plus 28,000 is equal to $34,000. High or low method with changes in the variable cost per unit. To apply high or low method, choose activity levels where the variable costs per unit remain unchanged. Let us discuss an example. The following information relates to the manufacture of product LL. For output in units 200, total cost in dollars 7,000. For output in units 300, total cost in dollars 8,000. For output in units 400, total cost in dollars 8,600. For output volumes above 350 units, the variable cost per unit falls by 10%. Note, this falls apply to all units, not just the excess above 350. Required. Estimate the cost of producing 450 units of product LL. Solution. Variable cost per unit less than 350 is equal to $8,000 minus $7,000 divided by 300 minus 200 is equal to $1,000 divided by 100 is equal to $10 per unit. Total cost at 300 units is equal to $8,000. Total variable cost is equal to 300 multiplied by $10 is equal to $3,000. Therefore, fixed cost is equal to $5,000. If output is 450 units, variable cost is equal to 450 multiplied by $10 multiplied by 90% is equal to $4,050. Fixed cost is equal to $5,000. Total cost is equal to $9,050. Cost equations. Cost equations are derived from historical cost data. Cost equations are assumed to have a linear function, and therefore the equation of a straight line can be applied. Y is equal to A plus BX, where A is the intercept, that is, the point at which the line Y is equal to A plus BX cuts the y-axis, the value of Y when x is equal to 0. B is the gradient or slope of the line Y is equal to A plus BX, the change in Y when x increases by 1 unit. X is equal to independent variable. Y is equal to dependent variable. Its value depends on the value of x. When applied to cost, Y is equal to total cost, A is equal to fixed cost, B is equal to variable cost per unit, X is equal to number of units.